Hello and welcome. I'm Professor Alan Duffy from Swinburne University of Technology, and together with the Australian Graphene Industry Association, I'm delighted to be speaking with Victoria's lead scientist, Dr. Amanda Caples, on Australia's role in the advanced materials manufacturing sector. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge our traditional owners. Acknowledge that I'm hosting this webinar from the lands of the Wurundjeri people, the Kulin Nation. I want to further acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands in which you all work and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this viewing. Paying our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters. My guest, Dr. Amanda Caples, joined the Victorian Public Service in 2002 as the inaugural Director of Biotechnology, and subsequently was appointed as the Executive Director for Science and Technology and DepSec for Sector Development and Programs to drive the state's science agenda. She has worked with Commonwealth agencies on national science and innovation policies, programs, including the Australian Synchrotron, thanks Amanda, and NCRIS, the National Collaborative Research Infrastructure Scheme, again, thanks Amanda. She became Victoria's lead scientist in 2016, a role which sees her identify opportunities for economic outcomes by building relationships between business, research, and government.
Thanks, Alan, and great to be here this afternoon.
Why is it that Victoria has this fascination with graphene?
So we have had a long history looking at composite materials and future fibres, going back to improving wool and the like. One of the projects that came forward through the Victoria's Science Agenda, which was a program that I was involved in at that point, was around support for a pilot scale carbon fibre facility. And the whole idea around that was to provide a resource for small to medium enterprises that they couldn't otherwise afford to commit to that infrastructure, but they needed access to it. And so a good argument was made to support Victoria, CSIRO, Deakin University to establish what is now, one of the few pilot scale facilities for carbon fibre manufacture. And what that has done is created an employment precinct of some 1,400 people in the Geelong area, and that was a key part of our auto transformation strategy. So with graphene, it's almost like a natural evolution. Carbon fibre is still at its relatively early stage in terms of how it's going to be applied. One of the benefits from the carbon fibre activity was to produce a manufacturing cohort that was able to contribute to the production of a graphene manufacturing facility. And so Victoria is one of the few places in the world that can make graphene towards an economical scale. So I think it's that long history, and it's about the people that are here and the people who can see the opportunities for the application of the technology. And so as government, we recognise that a role that we can play is to support those activities with the type of infrastructure that I've talked about. But also getting back to networks, it's really important that like-minded people can readily find each other. And that was part of the reason why we provided some seed investment to the Australian Graphene Industry Association. So we were really pleased to do that, because I think that is just a great way in which government can seek to catalyse the people and the ideas to develop the graphene opportunity and to take it further.
There's a very reasonable strategic focus, as you say, on certain initiatives and certain times. And one effort that has well and truly come is Industry 4.0. And firstly, what is Industry 4.0 for anyone who isn't aware? And then what do you see as those opportunities graphene presents for that new paradigm?
So the way that I think of it is really applying digital technologies to the manufacturing process. And so it's really about smarter manufacturing. So with graphene, I think it's got so many different applications because it's quite a unique material, both through its strength, its lightweight, it's impervious to gases. There are so many characteristics and attributes of graphene that it lends itself to so many applications, and the key determinant will be the volume, the magnitude that is required for any application, and of course an economical method of manufacture.
Are there any other industries or applications you see graphene making a difference at this early stage?
Particularly at this time when there will be an increased pressure to invest in infrastructure. If we can accommodate smart sensors in the construction of infrastructure and so I'm talking about construction, I'm talking about bridges and that kind of civil infrastructure, then, I think that's going to be a good investment. It's about, having access to technology that can lead to a better outcome, particularly for projects that effectively, and when you're talking about infrastructure, got a 30, 40, 50, 60-year lifespan, you need to be prepared to invest at the beginning, but the potential for the return in the long term is quite high.
Do you see graphene having a role in the energy sector beyond that?
Look, I understand that graphene's been considered as part of, obviously, a key component around batteries. So it will have applications for all forms, I guess, of energy, alternative forms of solar cells, wind energy and other things. So it's almost like it's a core component of so many different structures that you could imagine many different applications in the energy industry.
What role does government have to try to drive those kind of adoptions?
So government is an owner of a lot of problems, and there are solutions out there if we connect the challenges with those solutions and support the co-development or the co-design of those solutions to bring forward a particular product. So government's got a commitment to advanced manufacturing, and so that's a key part of our economy, and no doubt there will be announcements at some point this year related to that. And so what I would encourage the graphene industry is to look at what those policies and programs might be and how they can collaborate. And so I would encourage the graphene community to think about, well, what are the applications of the technology, looking at, well, what are the problems that we need to solve, either as humanity across the globe or more locally here in Victoria, and see how they can come together in a shape and a constituency that can put forward a minimum viable product for government to consider.
How do you see Victoria, and indeed Australia's role, evolving as a participant in the global advanced materials manufacturing sector?
If we can build on our expertise in carbon fibre, in graphene, and demonstrate how we can use the ingenuity of our people and apply it to specific problems for the world market, that's a great way to be a major player on the world stage. Engagement of our resources industry, I think, in these technologies, to be able to apply it to their business would be a great way to really leapfrog, because the major companies who have major, the utility of such products can be readily deployed as a consequence of what their business is. So I think what we need to do to capitalise on our opportunity to be at the cutting edge is to engage the major companies in our economy, as well as the SMEs, as well as the researchers, because together we're going to be much stronger and have more power, if you like, on the global stage, because we'll have a better contribution to make as a consequence of everyone having understanding and having buy-in to the products that we're prioritising for development.
I'm certainly glad we have someone like you, Amanda, who can sit at the interface between all of those groups, bring them all together. My sincere thanks to you and indeed the Victorian Government for making possible our conversation, as well as the Australian Graphene Industry Association and Swinburne University of Technology. That's it. Thank you all for watching. I hope it's been informative and inspiring with the incredible opportunities that graphene presents us here in Victoria. Goodbye.